But would you fault a party for the actions of its leader?
I think it's just been a series of very unfortunate events.
I mean, in sports, it's normal for, in team sport, it is normal for players to have disagreement.
Now, with this conviction, okay, so what's going to happen now?
Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of Beyond the Headlines. My name is Amalina Kamal, your host for this week's go-to place for your weekly news roundup. Now, I'm joined by Hazwin Hassan, who is our news editor, as well as David Christie, our executive editor for production, and Arjipal Singh, our sports editor. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I think this is the first time we're having everybody filling up the sofa on the set. I love that we are here to talk about, news in general. So, of course, for this week, as usual, we'll be diving into the headlines that have made quite the buzz, from Kuala Lumpur High Court's latest drama, or I would say verdict, to the civil servants getting a revision in their salary scheme, as well as everything that you need to know in sports. Now, let's start with breaking news from the Kuala Lumpur High Court today. Syed Saddiq's guilty verdict. Now, the Muammar Member of Parliament, Syed Saddiq Syed Abdul Rahman, was sentenced to 7 years in jail and will receive 2 strokes of the cane for charges of abetting criminal breach of trust, misappropriation of property, and 2 money laundering. Now, Hazwin, maybe you can break down the nitty-gritty of it all for us.
Right. Thank you, Amalina. So, as you rightly mentioned, he was found guilty of all 4 charges leveled against him, and these charges came in from way back in 2021. Now, the 4 charges he was found guilty of was number 1, criminal breach of trust, where he abetted the Bersatu Malaysia Armada Wing Assistant Treasurer. At the time, Syed Saddiq was the wing's chief, and so he was found guilty of abetting the Assistant Treasurer, Rafiq Hakim Razali, for committing criminal breach of trust involving 1 million ringgit of the organization's funds. The second charge he was found guilty of, was misusing property for himself, namely 120,000 ringgit from a Maybank Islamic Berhad account belonging to, again, Armada, the Bersatu wing, called Armada Bumi Bersatu Enterprise. This account belongs to this company, Enterprise, and it caused Rafiq, again the assistant treasurer, to dispose of the money. And the third and fourth charges he was found guilty of are 2 counts of engaging in money laundering in 2 transactions worth 50,000 ringgit each, believed to be proceeds from unlawful activities, again from his own Maybank account, Islamic Berhad account, into his Amanah Saham Bumi Putra account, or rather commonly known as ASB.
Well, the question to that is, how would this impact Malaysian politics in general, right? Having a member of parliament being found guilty, actually, of the misappropriation of funds. David?
Well, this is just one member of parliament who has been convicted, and so I think that just to me there are 2 aspects that we may want to think about. One, he's just one person in parliament. His party has only one parliamentarian, and that's him. So his conviction is not going to change anything in Malaysian politics. The equation or the it's not changing. Okay, so but what I think that is disappointing, maybe, is that this alternative group, Muda portrayed itself as an alternative group, a third
for
force.
check, balance, being
now,
rightful.
Whether we want to acknowledge it or not, Syed Saddiq is the face of Muda. Okay, apart from him, we would be hard pressed to name another personality from that party. He is the face. He is the voice of Muda. Okay, now he's going to appeal. He's going to appeal, but that road is uncertain. That road, I mean, what will come out of that road is
From the
uncertain.
appeal? Okay.
So, I think the hit that Muda takes from this is tremendous, and that third force that that we hope would develop, okay, I think now seems like a distant dream. It's like a distant dream. So that is, I think, the greater impact of this case
Right.
on Malaysian politics.
But okay, so this case is in relation to when Syed Saddiq was, I suppose associated with Armada Bersatu, but now I'm not too sure. Of course, Syed Saddiq is Muda, but would you fault a party for the actions of its leader? I'm just dwelling on this because, of course, Muda has tried so much in terms of appealing to a new branch of voters, or at least the younger voters, to say that like we're here and we're trying to rid off all the warlords, and it's the traits of the warlords, right? So would you fault Muda for Syed Saddiq's verdict?
Okay, you see, it's interesting. Muda has put off his elections. It's put off its elections. I think that's a mistake. And it's not even determined the date. If Syed Saddiq and his fellow leaders should have considered the possible outcomes of this case. They should have thought about the future of this party. And the fact that they put off this case, put off the elections, I think creates this kind of vacuum in the public's recognition of Muda.
Okay.
Right.
Meaning, it's still Syed Saddiq.
Right.
You want to take the party a
Outside
step
of this
forward,
imagery, yeah.
okay? So you need to move on. You need to. I think elections is absolutely vital. So when Syed Saddiq is or is not there, you still have people
Correct.
that the public can relate to. Now, with this conviction, okay, so what's going to happen now? The elections. It's like
Right.
they're going to have to how would I put it? Some damage control, or okay, now they're going to try and fix things. Okay, now we're going to try and build up Muda, maybe without Syed Saddiq there.
Yeah.
Now we're going to do it.
Right.
Right.
If not now, then when, right? I
now then
suppose.
when,
I
yeah.
see. Okay.
Can I just add though on damage control? Ever since their poor performance and show in the recent
State
elections,
Yeah.
I think it's just been a series of very unfortunate events, if I can put it that way. But rather, really, it's not really unfortunate because it came from the decisions within the leadership, the party's leadership, right? And the fact that they failed spectacularly during the elections, and it wasn't something unplanned. Rather, they decided to just go out on their own because they thought that they could. But then the results, proved otherwise. And I think you mentioned that they only have one seat now in Parliament.
Yes, one seat.
Yeah, what would
So-
happen to that seat then? In this particular case, right? Okay, say, we're sure that Syed Saddiq is going to be, requesting for an appeal, but he also did do a press conference, or he spoke to the press right after hearing his sentencing. He was actually saying that, he respects the High Court's decision, he will take full accountability, which it's hard to see a lot of Malaysian leaders, voicing that out verbally or explicitly. And then for him to then take an appeal, how would that
Well,
impact him? So two questions there, right? First, his next move. Second is that what will happen to his position now?
Well, if he doesn't appeal, and the conviction stands, he will lose the seat. Okay, under the law.
Yep.
Okay, but he will appeal. That's for sure. Okay, and once that happens, the process it'll go to the possibly go up to the level of the federal court. From the Court of Appeal up to the federal court, and that could take anything from a year to 2 years. That will take us to 2025, maybe 2025, 26. So it's a long way off. The process has not ended for that seat
Oh,
for
right.
Syed Saddiq. Yeah.
I see. But he's still going to be active?
In
No,
co-
I mean,
Well, okay,
in
let's look at
Parliament
former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib Razak. He was very active in the field during his court cases, the SRC International trial. Okay, so I imagine Syed Saddiq won't be sitting on the couch and watching TV all day long.
but probably he'll be like a bit more muted or toned down now. Do you think so?
Well, he hasn't exactly been
Vocal?
talking a lot, except for when he was upset about the, if you recall, the discharge not amounting to an acquittal that
Yes.
was granted
Yes.
to the.
Former
What
Prime
do
He
you
did
call it?
have a lot to say about that.
Yeah,
Yes,
he
I
did have a
remember.
lot to
Yeah.
say.
TNA, yes.
But apart from that, he was not the regular commentator on Malaysian politics. Okay, so I'm not saying but I don't think he will just stay quiet. He will probably weigh in, but I'm not sure whether he's going to be more active than what he already has been doing.
Okay, at least that's the whole episode for Syed Saddiq as of now. I mean, as David mentioned, that if he does file for an appeal, it will take another 2 years of more reports from the case, I suppose, right? So next, we actually want to talk about our Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, acknowledging that there will be a new salary scheme for civil servants by end of next year. Now, the government has pledged to roll out a fresh set of guideline for the salary scheme of the country's civil service by next year. But he also emphasized that there's some sort of complexity in this, because usually when it comes to the salary alignment studies, it will take 10 years. And then with that, it requires extensive coordination across various government departments. Okay, with that, right, I'm just going to ask a simple question. All this effort for the civil service sector, or at least for our civil servants, is it warranted, I suppose?
I think at the base level, obviously, this is moving forward with the government's progressive wage policy, and that they just want to overall raise wages, because we do have a cost of living crisis at the moment, which is rather separate to the issue. But you cannot deny that the two and two are run along tandemly, parallel to each other. So in the same way that we have to deal with the increasing cost of living by getting the civil servant pay up, increasing their salaries, we also have to understand that just rolling out this salary scheme to sort of in a way, please everyone, make everyone happy, isn't enough, because it has to go and grow proportionate to productivity. Now, I'm sure that the government, as you mentioned, they are committed to conducting their studies, which is typically conducted every 10 years, which is why we are only going to see this roll out by the end of next year, because of the period given for this study. Because to roll out a scheme like this, a salary scheme like this for the public services, civil servants in the public sector, it does require extensive coordination across the government departments, as you said. Now, obviously, the one thing that is crucial in this is that the government has enough money, that we do have enough money in the coffers. So I, for one, personally, I am happy to see that the government is taking its time in studying and before finally setting a date to roll out, before deciding to implement the policy. And again, these new pay schemes involving such a large sector, the public sector, right, where we want to see only the positives come out of it. It has to it has to grow and be evaluated against productivity levels. But because otherwise, it really does defeats the purpose of the entire thing. We want to see everyone across the board. We want to see productivity levels go up, and in turn, then I think the government will have a much easier time in justifying, yes, so raising the salaries, raising the pay for civil servants was a good thing. It's a good thing moving forwards. And it gives more support. It gives more emphasis to why they were pushing for the progressive wage policy in the first place.
Okay, just to add, thank you for sharing that as well. But of course, I forgot to mention that our Prime Minister is also saying that the government will do away with, outsourcing consultants or at least consultant services by upskilling their own staff and sending them off to overseas for training and all that. What are your thoughts on this? Is it too much? Because it's got to be a cost as well. I mean, just to add, Prime Minister Anwar also emphasized that there's a commitment to invest in local talent development. Hence, this is why they're doing away with, unnecessary consultancy fees and I suppose engagements.
So, sending our people abroad to pick up skills and become the consultants in the public service, as opposed to hiring
agencies,
or third parties. I mean, I think it's part of this massive exercise. It's part of this massive exercise to raise salaries. I mean, it's. I just want to add, and I will answer that question too. That I was quite surprised that they're going to do it next year. This salary increase, because we have civil service that's about 800,000 to 1 million, something around. It's a massive thing, So to be able to promise an increase next year, I thought it was super fast. But I guess because of the nature of the election cycle, if you want to call it, the politicians have to go back to the people.
Yep.
So they need to go back to the people with answers. And people don't really like to wait too long, civil servants also. So I think, and that is why the Prime Minister said next year we will do it, the increment. So, but I want to say that we hope that this exercise to increase salaries, and just want to add this point, I think it's very important, will also consider the pension bill. Because when you increase salaries, the pension bill also will go up. And for the longest time, we have been talking about pensions are pensions. My mother's a pensioner also, you see. But how long can we continue? It's just like the subsidies. How long can we continue to
pay for this.
pay for this pension bill. So, so I'm glad, like, sending these consultants abroad. People for training abroad to become consultants. This is part of the solution. In the long run, it will reduce our costs. Which is good. But there's just so many things more to be considered,
Right.
and I hope the people who are thinking about or planning these increments, salary raises for our civil service, I hope they have all this in mind. It's a huge task.
It is. I mean, which is why I brought up, the cost issue, and that it has to be justified with increased levels of productivity. Otherwise, it really just defeats the purpose. And because you mentioned about pensions, so in the recent 2024 budget that was announced, basically this new salary scheme for civil servants comes following that to reiterate the announcement of a special allowance of 2,000 ringgit for civil servants and 1,000 ringgit for retirees as well. And this was supposed to be the short-term solution on the matter before the rollout of the new salary scheme. But again, I think, to consider, to always be reminded and be aware of this is going to involve a lot of cost for the government, and whether or not the government has the funds, the income revenue to continue to sustain this policy is going to be a big question moving ahead. And I personally, as I said before, I really think that the government needs the time to study this, to make sure that there is proper coordination between their departments.
I know.
Yep.
Of course, because the money that goes into it is taxpayers' money as well.
Exactly.
So
It's our money. It's our money.
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Now we will go into sports. But before that, Arjipal, do you have any questions you want to add for the topics that we just discussed before we go into you?
Nothing at all.
All right. Oh, are you sure? Okay. All right.
Okay.
Interesting, because in sports we do have a lot of questions.
Okay.
Two main things that I want to know, because it has been, if not trending, it's been on headlines for days. One is Zii Jia's unwillingness to, participate in the Road to Goal campaign, which Hannah has been trying to get him to participate and say, okay, I'm on board. And second is the whole situation with our football club, the leagues basically, the supporters and everything, even from we will dive into that. But let's start with Zii Jia's reluctantness in terms of participating in Road to Goal campaign.
Okay, the Road to Goal program provides additional support to elite athletes in the country. Okay, but as in Zii Jia's case, he has his own professional team, which include support service staff who takes care of his mental health, his fitness, and all the other things. So I think this is an issue between why he is not signing it with RTG.
You're saying that under RTG they won't allow him to have all this support,
Perks.
this ancillary services.
I think part of the requirement is that he has to report to the National Sports Institute, which is in charge of sports science among athletes in Malaysia. So probably he has to report to them. They have to monitor his physical health and all this.
I see. So they are supposed to do what his team is doing. So he can't bring his team on board.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see. His comforts are not there, basically.
Yeah.
That's purely the reason. And have you heard anything from the ministry side, at least?
He has asked for more time to.
Still to consider, basically.
He's still considering. He hasn't signed a letter of commitment yet, but he hasn't said no. He still wants to study the details and see what happens in the future. The other 14, 15 athletes have signed.
Only him in
Yeah.
this situation. I see.
Because the rest are not professional athletes.
Right.
They still depend on the association for for training and all the other stuff.
Yeah, I'm curious. What exactly does he stand to gain if he joins RTG? Financial support, I suppose.
Just 3,000 a month.
Okay. But what about coaching and all that? Would it be superior to what he's doing now or receiving
Okay,
now?
these athletes are all actually under this podium program. Podium program provides all the necessary training, the coaches and competitions and all that. The Road to Goal program is an additional service to help athletes fight for gold at the Olympics and in other major events.
Okay.
So this is an additional support lah.
But he's not
top up, a top
he's
up.
not in the podium program, right? I mean,
No,
he's
because
not, he's on his own.
he's on his own. Because he has a huge sponsorship and all that, so he doesn't.
Mm.
I mean,
So RTG will, when you say help them in their quest for gold in Paris, I mean, what exactly, or at least is there some any idea what they provide for the
Yeah, because
athletes?
to that, right, I understand where you're coming from, David, because I feel like now it's like RTG is relying on Zii Jia so that their campaign can be successful instead of the other way around. So
they're riding on him.
correct. And hence
probably.
this is why he's being all, difficult and like, you gotta give me more. I mean, it's a classic dance between, any athlete with a brand, I suppose, right? So
maybe RTD needs to bend the rules a bit to accommodate him. I mean, if they see him as a top contender for a medal at the Olympics, maybe you need to give him a leeway.
But that would create a precedent, I think, and a precedent that could pose a problem in the future when you have other characters.
that's true.
Strong
That's
characters.
True. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, then it's not about the gold anymore, right? It's about who's carrying the gold, I suppose. Okay. All right. Next, it's all about the Malaysian Football League. A lot of harassment and violations in the football
match. That one, I
matches?
think about
Yes.
3 days ago there was a brawl between two youth teams in this Supremo League. I mean, the Supremo League is an under 5, and they have under 5, under 12, under 16 competitions.
Right.
So there was a brawl between. I mean, in sports, it's normal for in team sport, it is normal for players to have disagreement, and there will be some kind of issues during matches and all that.
Yeah, but do you think this attitude or behavior is a legacy thing? Because I mean, if you see in Malaysian football, we're also very how do I say this? Like, we're very into the game to a point that there's. I mean, we wanna also be our own set of hooligans, I suppose. Like, So, where did this come from, at least?
This problem. I mean, it is been a problem since ages. I mean, it's been an issue in Malaysia, not only in Malaysia, in other countries as well.
In the EPL too?
Yeah. It's just that the enforcement in the EPL, the top tier leagues, I mean, it's more, it's stricter. It's so that's why players don't misbehave on the pitch.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I mean, we see this pattern being, repeated here, or at least, among our players. What should our authorities do, or at least our officials do, to ensure that sports
education?
is sport?
I mean, they have to educate the players.
Anger management, I think.
But it also goes back to the old adage of that football is a gentleman's game played by hooligans, as opposed to like rugby, for instance, is a hooligan's game played by gentlemen.
Yes.
But
you're going to get all this
if
football fans
you
coming.
ask me, it's not really, as you rightly mentioned, it's not really anything new. But yeah, I mean, if it reaches a certain level that is concerning, obviously we need to do something about it.
Yeah, of course, there's no place for violence especially in the grassroots leagues. I mean, the authorities have to educate the coaches and all. They have to educate the players how to behave, how to play a good game. I mean, when you are at the grassroots level, I mean, the main thing is to learn how to play the game, tactics, skill, and not learn how to fight and all that. Yeah.
So nip it in the bud, in other words.
And this
Okay,
team, I think these two concerned teams, I think the FA of Malaysia, I called the president and said they are going to take action, probably ban one of the teams from
Alright.
playing.
Oh, okay.
Because this is not the first time.
Yeah.
I mean, not first time for one of the teams, or at least the setting.
One of the teams.
I
mean, they have caused
see.
problems before as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They
Are we
believe-
able to?
They believe it's a isolated case lah, in this tournament.
Okay.
Mm.
So this tournament is not particularly known for these sort of
No,
riots or brawls to break out.
according to them, first time lah.
Okay.
Because we managed to, because it was all on social media, so we managed to.
Well, I mean, this is certainly the first time I've heard about this league, Liga Super Rimau. So, and then unfortunately, why I know about them is because of this.
Yeah.
I mean, for someone.
But it also happens in district level leagues and all. A long time ago, I used to play in the Kelanajaya League also. I mean, almost every match there's a fight, players chasing their referee, a lot of issues. I think it happens now as well.
Right.
And I think the FAs must double up, make sure that the enforcement is there to protect the
Yes.
referees, players, and officials and all that.
I mean, still on Malaysian football, there's also another, I suppose, topic that recently came to light again, but this particular discussion has been there for years already.
Yeah.
And it's concerning the salary cap of our footballers, basically. And I think TMJ also was quite vocal about it, or at least talking about, the sustainability of our Malaysian football, because some are on the brink of bankruptcy, or at least have issues when it comes to finances. I mean, to sustain itself. I just want to understand, okay, salary cap, and then the Malaysian Football League itself.
Okay, there is no salary cap in the M League at the moment. They had it previous season, probably 10 years ago. But what some of the teams did is that they worked around it and offered players double contracts. That means that second contract is not declared. It's an agreement between a personal agreement between you and me, and we just sign and this and that.
Informal agreement.
Informal agreement.
I see. Okay.
But what happened is some teams could not meet the financial obligations. The players could not do anything. Although they filed a complaint, they have not paid, my salary according to my second contract. They couldn't do anything.
Right.
Because what they say is not a legally binding contract.
So when did this stop?
This salary cap thing.
This double contract, this informal agreement.
When they stopped the cap, when they decided not to implement the salary cap in Malaysian football, this was probably about a decade ago. I mean, there's another thing they're looking at, the financial fair play, where the organisers of the league, the Malaysian Football League, can introduce this financial fair play, where they look into the club's revenue and expenditure, and then come up with a set amount of how much they could spend on players. But this might not work because JDT probably is the most richest club. I mean, they could have a cap of 50 million a year to spend on players, while teams like Kelantan probably, they could only be allowed to spend 8 million a year. So it would be unfair.
Okay.
Is there a wide gulf between the highest paid players and the lowest?
Yeah. How is it here?
Yeah.
I mean, the richer clubs, they can just offer
Afford
you.
to pay.
Uh, I don't think our local players are worth 60,000 a month, 80,000
Really?
a month.
Yeah, but they are
overpaid.
paid that, right? 80,000 a month.
So
that
would
has
you
been
say that
one.
60,000 monthly is the average or above average for most players?
Above average lah, still. I
Right.
mean, for
Okay.
local players lah. I mean,
Okay, for Malaysian. Okay.
but what I know for a youth player, up and coming player, I mean, they will get probably about 16,000 a month easily.
16K.
16K just to train and.
It's actually not too bad.
So 16K
Not
would
too bad,
be
that's
the
really good.
average- 16K would be the average salary of
Up and
a
coming
regular player
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the M League.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know, right? I was like,
Overpaid,
wow, okay. Anyway,
So we don't know what. I mean, the Malaysian Football League has to do more lah. I mean, to curb this problem of
Yep.
unpaid wages and this other, because This year they stopped the Premier League. Now it's just a one-tier league, which is called the Super League. So you have scores of 10-0, 9-0 in some games. So I mean, if you are a rich person, you want to invest into it, to the league. Why would you do that when you see
True.
teams losing 10-0, 9-0, 10-0? I mean,
Yeah.
so there's a problem here, lah. Of course, the MFL can go back to the teams. You all are not doing enough. In terms of creating revenue and this and that. But end of the day, Malaysian football, there's no strong following.
No strong following as in
Spectators.
it's no longer a spectator sport
I mean, only
that it used to be.
Yes. I mean, Selangor games in the past when they used to play in Merdeka Stadium. When I was a kid, I used to go there. I save my pocket money school and go weekends. We take the bus there.
How long ago was this?
This was in the 90s,
Okay.
1990.
All right.
The Shah Alam Stadium.
No, I supported them when they were playing at the Merdeka Stadium.
Oh, see. Okay.
Okay.
So now they don't draw us.
Yeah.
As many people.
Do you
Yeah.
think-
Even JDT, I think recently they beat the South Korean team,
Ulsan, I think.
Ulsan in the Asian Champions League. Their stadium was not full at all.
Right.
Yeah, so
I think in terms of the camaraderie, the spirit is there. People are still want to, know the developments of football in Malaysia. But I believe it's just there's not much, how do you say, news coming out from our players itself in terms of
Yeah.
the development. It's always about politics within the association. So that kind of deters away from the sport.
and then you have JDT who has won the League 10 Straits Times. So there's no competition.
But only because they're more well endowed.
Yeah,
Right.
of course. I mean, they have done their work. They are,
So,
in terms of commercializing the club, merchandising.
They can afford to get the better
Yeah.
players.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
other clubs are being left behind. Lah. I mean, they can't do anything about it.
I suppose one burning question before we go on into
Break.
MotoGP. MotoGP, a little bit what people can expect, but one burning question to you. Which football club in Malaysia is actually doing it right?
JDT, of course, JDT.
Okay.
Selangor also, they are okay. Terengganu.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. The rest also depending lah on
These
their
clubs that you
sponsorship.
mentioned, just Selangor and Terengganu, apart from JDT, as far as money is concerned, they are
Okay, I mean the players receive their salaries on time and all. those
Okay.
things. Yeah. It is normal in Malaysian football. I mean, averagely players don't get salaries for 2 or 3 months.
I mean,
the money is good.
Held back?
No, the club got no money.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember about the case about the coach in the Kelantan FC coach, that German guy?
Yeah, he had to.
Because he didn't get.
Yeah,
Was
Right.
this in related? I'm not too sure, but yeah, I mean, if the player is even the coach, right? So, but it reflects the sanctity of football in Malaysia, I suppose.
I mean, you need the league to be healthy. You need all 14, 15 teams to be healthy lah, as well. I mean,
Then
to
Malaysian football can be revered
then can
again.
grow. I mean,
Yeah.
now Malaysian football looks good because of our national team.
Right.
They are doing well. But if you look at the national team, how many heritage and naturalized players do we have playing for the national team?
Right.
They have a lot of naturalized players, heritage players in the team. That's why the national team is doing good.
So take them out, then
Finish.
Finito.
Alright.
Okay, Ajipal, in 1 minute, can you tell our audience what they can expect for MotoGP? Sorry, because we're running out of time, but we still want to know what MotoGP is.
Okay, MotoGP, I mean, we have been having it here for past 10, 15 years. I mean, it's an exciting event where all the top riders are here. I mean, to collect points and to win the overall title. I mean, Malaysian fans, I hope they will be at in Sepang to support their favorite teams.
Who's leading? Who will be? Me? No. No, we'll leave that till this weekend's
okay.
scoreboard. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for the insights to our audience back at home. If you like today's episode, do share your comments or any suggestions for future topics that you want to listen to us chat about. My name is Amalina Kamal, and I would like to thank everybody here on behalf of my guests as well for tuning in. And don't forget to watch us again next week on Beyond the Headlines. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.